Hey, everybody. I see some friends popping in. Hello, hello. We'll wait just a second here while people join us today. Just realized I didn't mute my laptop. That would have been bad. All right. So I see, hello, Joss Mary. Aroma by Joss Mary. Is that both you? Little Lane Crafts, Rachel, Dean, TJ, hello. Thank you for joining us today. I am Libby. This is Seeka, and we're going to be doing a My Monthly Hero make-along today. We put in the description of this live the products we'll be using. So if you want to make along with us, that's awesome. If you want to just watch and chat and see what this kit's about, then you can always go back and make it later. Hi, Dee. Hi, Rosie. Hi, George. Hello, Wendy. Hi, everybody. I know this was a little bit of a challenging kit. It takes you outside your comfort zone a little. It's super creative and fun. So I know that you guys probably want some more ideas for what to do with it. So that's why we're here today. Hello from Istanbul. Oh, thank you for joining us. That's really cool.
Hi, Rosie.
I'm doing all the talking. You want to say hello, Seeka?
Hello. I'm glad
I am not hearing your sound. Let's see.
You're not hearing my sound.
No, I muted my laptop like a dum-dum. I'm used to my other lives where I have to mute my laptop or else you hear it, but I'm not actually watching the live, so I didn't need to do that. So technology is always fun for me. Oh, you're okay, Seeka. Come back. Okay.
Am I back?
I made her think she was no sound.
Sorry, I went to...
We'll just wait a couple more seconds while people are joining here. And I'm going to go ahead and take my that out of the screen because we're going to start with Seeka's card anyway. But first, guys, I wanted to just go ahead and show you what the kit is that we're working with today. It is the February My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts. It is still available. There's a few left. If you find you love it after watching today, it was inspired by dreams and surrealist paintings. And so it's really funky, but it's really fun. So if you look, there's some inspiration here, like from Salvador Dali with the little clock that's kind of melting on the side. Let me go back to the comments and see what y'all are saying. There's an umbrella. There's a mirror with butterflies. There's an open door that goes out to the clouds. There's some water coming down with the moon and stars that can go with the window, or it can go like you're going to see me do today with the mirror. There's that funky eyeball and the stairway up to who knows where. And then some really fun messages in the kit as well. I especially love that I'm not crazy. My reality is different from yours from Alice in Wonderland. So lots of fun ideas in this kit. And I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to take this down now that you've seen it. It also has some watercolor dot palette, which is really fun because those are high quality Daniel Smith watercolors. And you get just a little dot of them that you actually make several cards depending on how much painting you do. And a water brush. And it's a fun way to try out those nice watercolors. And there's also some black cardstock or black watercolor paper in the kit so that you can watercolor on it. Let me go ahead and go back to this and remove this for just a second here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and, Seeka, if you don't mind, I'm going to add you back in here for a bit. Oops, and now I hear that, so I'm going to take you back out. I think you have sound coming into two places, Seeka, perhaps. So you can't be listening on like Facebook or YouTube if we're on here. So not sure if that's what it was. Let me try again. Sorry, guys. I know the technology is always fun. All right, Seeka.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and no echoes or anything. So perfect. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to my overhead just for a second here. Do this. And I'm going to show you guys some, I'm going to spotlight on this just for a few minutes here. I want to show some cards from our creative team before we get going with our tutorials today so that you can see some other inspiration with this kit. Let me get this is the actual stamp set. Mine doesn't have a label because I get an early one before it has a indexing label on it. So this is not what yours would look like. It would be with a label on it, a black label. And then these are the dies that coordinate with all the stamps in there. But I'm going to get that out of the way and show you some beautiful cards from Debbie Adams and Daniel West. Here's one from Daniel West. You can see he used that stairway. He used the window and the apple and some butterflies and made this fun little scene. So again, this one really stretches your creativity and your imagination, and you just need to go with it and have fun with it and come up with some interesting scenes. Here's another one that Daniel did. I love how he did these poles coming from the images and the little shadows. And if you joined me when I did the overview when we first released this, these are the same cards I showed before. So I'm sorry if it's a repeat for some of you. This one is from Debbie Adams. I like how she took those little images and circled around the doorway and the umbrella. And just got fun with it. And I like how she did this here. The water is in a different orientation, so it kind of just looks like a river coming down from that, which is really fun. If you want to make a horizon line on your scene, you would just put like some kind of masking and color there or ink blend there, and then take it off and do it the other direction to get the other color. I'll show this one. This one is the clock, the Salvador Dali inspired clock. And if you want to see a really fun way to do this clock, Lydia Fiedler in our blog hop, she did a scene where it is like on the edge, just like, in a Dali painting. And she did a tutorial on how she did that. And I think after this video is done, I'm going to go ahead and link to all the videos that our team shared for this hop as well, so that you could go back and reference those if you also want some different ideas for it. But I love this. This is such a cool card. Here's another one. I believe this one's Debbie also, with the fish and the umbrella. Here's one with the mirror and the eye. So it's different, guys. I'm not going to pretend it's not, but it is fun and funky. I love the colors that Daniel used on this, and this is on watercolor paper, so he used his dot card. And then this is another one from Daniel, just a beautiful purpley blue and gray background. It's just such a lovely, it looks surreal and dreamlike. So anyway, those are some kit cards that were made by our team when we launched. Now, before we dive in, one other thing I want to talk to you about really quick is yesterday we did a blog hop with our team to launch Hero Arts' efforts to support Ukraine. And so we have a category on our website of products that if you purchase them, they are existing products. I know a lot of you already have some of them. If you purchase them going forward, all the net profits will go to supporting Ukraine. And then we also did a printable. So this is a PDF download. It's only $3.99. And you get this digital file that is a PDF that you can print. And it has these messages and then the sunflower. And when you print it, it comes with 2 sets. So you print 2 sets at once on your printout. And then this is a card that I shared yesterday using it. So you can kind of get an idea of the scale and how it looks on an A2 card for that sunflower. So if you're interested at all, I encourage you to check that out on the Hero Arts website. If you go to our shop, there's a support Ukraine right on the sidebar, right at the top. And yeah, so that's just some, trying to do our little part to help what's happening overseas right now. All right, so now, Seeka, if you are ready, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight your desktop so that you can start your tutorial. Sound good?
Okay, give me a hint. I feel like our audio was reversed from last time we tried, so give me a hint if you can't hear me when you switch.
Okay. You'll both be it'll be fine. It's all going to be in the stream. I'm just going to solo you. Okay, there you go.
Sounds good. Okay, and you can still hear me loudly enough?
Yes, you're perfect.
Okay, awesome. So this is the card I'm going to make today. I love the examples that Libby shared of Debbie and Daniel's cards. This one is simpler, you can tell. Just a little bit of watercoloring and then some puffy clouds. It's a little bit hard to see the depth there, but you can see there's just a little bit of puffiness and then some ink blending and some splatter. So I'm going to start off with the watercolor. I'm going to stamp the moon image and just get that going so that it can have a few minutes to dry. So I'm going to grab that. And for this, I'm going to use a black pigment ink. So this is the Hero Hues Onyx pigment ink. I love this for watercoloring and then also for stamping sentiments. Ink that up. I'll give it one more pass. There we go. Okay. Clean up this. So, Libby mentioned the watercolor dot chart. The colors I'm going to use today are the iridescent golds, and I think I used either the pink or the rose madder. So iridescent, let's go with rose madder. So iridescent gold and rose madder. I'm just going to add a little bit of clean, clear water to my palette. It's a very tiny well, don't need a lot of water for this. And I have a small brush, and I'm just going to add some water to each of these dots.
Seeka, are you painting on watercolor paper right now?
I am, yes. I'm sorry. This is just a scrap piece of watercolor paper that I have from my stash. But I think if you had some, you know, some heavy white cardstock, that would work as well. This is not a intensive watercolor. I'm not going to use a ton of water. I'm going to dab up that pink I accidentally added. So yeah, I think heavy watercolor paper, I'm sorry, heavy white cardstock would work, as well as even maybe some Bristol Smooth. Let's do that. So as these dots have a little bit of chance to absorb the water, the paint becomes, I guess activated is the word I'll use. And I usually like to use a little palette. You don't have to use your palette. You can use this card itself as a palette. But I'm not a very experienced watercolor, and I just feel like I have a little bit more control if I go onto a palette, and then I can see a little bit more of what I'm picking up. So this is just very kind of fast and loose watercoloring. Pick up a little bit more. I'm starting with the gold first because I'm actually going to do 2 layers of the gold, just to let the gold really stand out and pop. Okay. So it's hard to tell on screen, but there's a really pretty shimmer to the golds. And then next I'm going to go with rose madder, and again this one I'm going to water down a little bit. It's pretty vibrant. And I'm just going to color in this ribbon. I'm actually going to hit, why don't I hit this with a heat gun? The pigment ink is safe for watercoloring, but because I just stamped it, and I just stamped it twice, it feels a little bit still wet to me. And so I'm actually pulling a little bit of the black, and now I've smeared a little bit of the black, but I'm not going to worry about that. And just so there's a tip is to heat set your ink before you start watercoloring.
Seeka, another thing I like to do when I'm using that black pigment in watercoloring is to put a little clear embossing powder over it. And
Yes.
that's another thing you could do if you wanted that look on your card. It would be like a shiny black instead of just the black. But yeah,
Absolutely.
It is good
And
to dry it before you try to watercolor it.
Yep. And I actually like to do that trick a lot too with some larger and more intricate images, just because it helps me stay in the lines. That embossing helps create a little bit of a well. So not fancy watercoloring here. Still have a little bit of black on my brush. And I think instead of dragging my brush, I'm just going to do a little bit of dabbing, because I do think that ink is just a little bit wet still. So I am going to die cut this, which is why I'm not too worried about the black smears that I have when I tried to dab away some of the paint. Okay. So I'm going to let me set that aside and let that dry. I do want to come in, I will add a little bit of, just a little bit of shading in the ribbon, and then another layer of the gold. So I will set that aside for a minute. And let's go to the background of the card itself. So this is a piece, a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of Lapis cardstock. This is one of the hero cardstock colors. One of my favorites, actually. I love using this as a base. This one, Mist and Arctic, are great blues to use as a starting point for a sky, and then you can add some ink blending to create some color variation. And so for this, I'm going to grab the door image. Grab another magnet. And I'm just going to put it a little bit high of center. I'm going to save room for the sentiment. And that looks about straight. Okay, so now just using an anti-static embossing tool. That here. And then I've got, I have a little mini embossing Hero Arts Embossing and Watermark ink. Except, actually, I realized I haven't opened this one before, so cut the lid open. And then what I'm going to use is, for the door itself and the outline of the clouds, I'm going to use white embossing powder, and then I'm going to fill in the clouds with some white puff embossing powder. This is nice and juicy. And then I'm going to do it one more time here. Didn't quite get to the corners. So I'm starting to see the image more clearly. I think I'm just going to fill in the spots that look a little bit sparse. One more pass. There we go.
Paula, the Hero Arts cardstock she's using is called Lapis, but any blue that you have similar to that color would be A-okay.
So now, it's just white embossing powder. This is my go-to white. Tap that off. Looks pretty good. And then I like to use just a little fine paintbrush. I don't know if you have pets at home, but I have cats that leave hair everywhere they go, and every once in a while it's almost like I get a little trail of ink where there might have been a cat hair on my ink pad, even though I just opened it. It's airborne. Okay, so there's that. I'll hit that with a heat gun. Let my heat gun warm up just a little bit. There we go. And then before I do anything else, I'm actually going to go ahead and do the ink blending. And so for that, because I've used some white embossing powder and I'm going to use this kind of vibrant blue hybrid ink, I'm just going to mask off the door a little bit so I don't get too much ink overlapping or onto the white embossing powder. If you do get ink on your white embossing powder, you can wipe it off or buff it off, but sometimes I don't always have, you know, a perfect result. And the other option is to just put it back into your MISTI and heat emboss again. So that was just a post-it note that I've trimmed down a little bit. And then let me grab a piece of scrap paper. And my favorite brush of all the brushes that I have, the one with the blue ink on it is my favorite. I don't know why this blue makes me feel happy. But so I'm just going to kind of load up my brush and then use this post-it note on my fingers just to help me keep my fingers clean. And then I'm just going to start on the side. This is not fancy ink blending. I'm not worrying about blending two colors together. I'm just trying to add a little bit of depth and interest to the borders of the panel. So pretty quick and simple here. Again, this is using a blue cardstock as a base for a sky or an image like this. I think is a great way to just get a head start. You don't have to worry about blending the blue. I went a little bit too close to that post-it note, so I did get a little bit of line, but I can smooth that out a little bit here. Okay, there we go. A little bit harsh over here, but I think this will dry out over time and I can futz with it a little bit more and a little bit if it's looking still kind of uneven. I want a little bit heavy there, but that's okay. All right, next I think I am going to actually I did get a little bit of blue ink on the top of the door, so I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of that off with my damp stamp chamois here. Another trick you could use to clean that up is just to go over it with a white gel pen. I think I actually did that on my original card, as I just went with a white gel pen. So I think I will heat emboss it again, and then I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss the sentiment while I'm at it. So this sentiment is "Beautiful things await you." There it is. So place that down here. And I will keep, I saved this image in the MISTI, so it's still lined up and ready to go. And then because I just used a little bit of ink here, I'm going to just use this powder tool again. I love how juicy new ink pads are. I'm going to go one more time just to get that sentiment clean. It's interesting remaking a card. So for me, when I first made this card, you might be able to see, I actually stamped the sentiment in gold first, but it really got lost on that blue. So I went back over it with the white. So I have the benefit of having experimented with that the first time around, which is nice. So that blue ink was a little bit still wet, which is fine. It's not creating a problem for the sentiment itself, but I'm just using a brush to clean that up. And ultimately, I'm going to splatter some white paint on this. So any stray embossing powder that does, that I miss here in this step, it's just going to look like splatter eventually. So nothing to worry about if it's not perfect. Okay, I'm going to heat up my heat tool again. There we go. So for the next step, I'm going to add the clouds. Actually, scratch that. I'm going to hold on that. I'm going to finish this first so that it has time to dry before I die cut it. So let me think about where I put my dots. And I'm going to go over the golds again, just to get a little bit more saturation there. And for this, again, really just kind of dotting the color on because I want it to be saturated and a little bit brighter. So it helps not to spread the paint too thinly. And then that really helps the shine come out as well. And then I'm going to actually just re-wet this. Since I'm adding shading, I'll go a little bit darker. And I'm just going to shade along where the folds are. Again, I'm not a very experienced watercolor. I'm just pretending I can guess where the shadows are and just darken those areas and not worry about it too much. I'm just dabbing my wet paintbrush off on my stamp chamois on the side just to take a little bit of water off. I think it's perfectly fine even just to skip this step. It doesn't add a whole lot, but sometimes it's nice just to have a little bit of color variation. And I think I'll just do a little bit more here and then call it done. Although I did miss a little bit. Still see some white ribbon up here. Okay. So I'll call it done. I'm going to set it aside to dry. and then I will die cut it in a few minutes. So then going back to this, so for the puffy clouds, I'm going to use a combination of crystal clear lacquer pen and white puff embossing powder. So this embossing powder puffs up a bit, excuse me, puffs up a bit when you heat emboss it, but the combination of the lacquer pen and the puffy embossing powder, it just gives it a little bit more dimension. I think the lacquer pen or the lacquer itself puffs up a bit. So I was testing this earlier, and it's clear and it's flowing, but if you have trouble, and this is true for your glues as well, you can always clean out your tip. So if you just wiggle the nozzle back and forth, you can pull it out. And actually, I think I will go ahead and clean this one out. But you can see that, well, maybe not because it's white on white on white, but it's a little bit, looks a little bit thick in there. So I'm just using, it's a Q-tip I've cut in half, and I'm just going to use a stick to pull out some of the thicker glaze lacquer that has maybe dried in there because it's closer to the tip. And set that aside, and I'm just going to go in one more time. So this is a really great tip if you're finding it hard to squeeze out glue or ink from any of your nozzles, just to go in and scrape that out, and then you should be good to go. It's a tip that actually Maria Willis, who's on our design team as well, taught me. And I just squirted a little bit. I don't know where it went, but I will find it later, I'm sure. So just to be prepped for this, again, I have my white puff embossing powder, and then I just have a coffee filter here that I'm going to pour into. And I also have a pokey tool, a craft pick. I'm actually not sure what they're called. I think craft pick, but I think of it as a pokey tool. And I'm just going to use the lacquer pen to color in the clouds. The pokey tool's here just to help me get into some of the little crevices and to spread the clear lacquer around. So because this tip is a little bit, it's still a fine tip, but because it's a little bit bigger, I'm just prepared with that pokey tool to help spread the lacquer. And it doesn't, you don't need a ton, and it doesn't have to be perfect because the white puff embossing powder is going to be over it. And so I'm just squeezing a little bit out and spreading it around with the tip of the nozzle here. And again, I'll use that pokey tool to spread. So the main goal right now is just to get clear lacquer onto all of these clouds. So now I'm just going to go in, I'm not sure if you can see, so it's really quite, you know, not spread out yet, but I'm just going to go in and just kind of keep coloring with the lacquer with this fine tip. Sometimes I like to transfer my clear lacquer into one of those needle nose bottles, and that gives you a little bit more precision, but most of the time when I use the lacquer, I'm not trying to be so precise. So spread that around. Just get into all the little nooks and crannies. Okay. And now for the white puff embossing powder. So you can see I didn't quite spread out, but that's okay. I'll take another pass. Let me heat emboss this first. And you can already see there's some dimension there. Heat gun is not quite hot yet. Okay, so you can see lots of dimension. It's again hard to see white on white, but those puffed up quite a bit. It was neat to see them bubble as I was heating it up. And then I'm going to just see if I can get a little bit more lacquer into those corners. So I'm just taking it straight from the tip of the bottle with the craft pick, and I'm just gonna fill in. Another great way to fill in is just to use a white gel pen. I feel like I missed some kind of big spots here, which is why I'm gonna go in with this lacquer again and just fill in those spots.
Filling it with your craft pick is so genius. Such a nice little tool to use for that.
Yeah, I use my craft pick for a lot of things. It's
And
great.
people are loving the
Even
dimension.
just, it's like, you know, when you're dealing with something small and you can't find your, well, I can't find my glasses anyway most of the time. And then I always wish I had like little hands to help me. That's what I feel like the craft pick is. It's just these
Your little best
tiny,
friend.
yes. Yeah.
So Gwen is saying that the white puff embossing makes great snowbanks and snowmen too. I think she's right about that.
Yes. And whipped cream for coffee
Oh,
cards.
yes, for
Or
sure.
hot cocoa. Yeah.
And
Okay.
just the white puff alone, you guys, if you use it like with a bold print background stamp, it makes a really cool background texture and dimension, especially if you love mixed media. It's a great embossing powder to use in mixed media as well. But combining it with the lacquer pen makes it even more extra awesome.
Mm-hmm. There. It's a bit better coverage. Put that aside before I tip it over. I'll put it on the side and maybe the cat will tip it over. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So my cardstock is a little bit warped because of the heat, and I've been messing with it. I don't worry about that too much because ultimately I do glue onto a heavy white card base. Sometimes I will spritz. I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it in this case because of the dimension, but sometimes I'll spritz the back of my panel with a little bit of water from far away. So I shouldn't have said spritz. I really mean mist. And then just put it under a heavy book for a few hours and let it flatten out. Okay, so now with that done, I am going to do a little bit of splatter. The splatter is going to help cover some of the uneven blending. It's not terribly uneven, but that'll help camouflage as well. And actually, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more darkness around the edges, only just to contrast with the open door, which I want to have a little bit lighter. So do that, and then I will get to the splatter. I'm going to avoid going over the sentiment just because, again, this ink is it's such a deep, pretty blue. Okay. I don't even know if that really made too much a difference, but felt good to me, so I'll go with it. And then I have my homemade splatter box. And I'm just going to use some white gouache. This is just an expensive white paint, water-based paint. And let me find a little acrylic block to squeeze it onto. Don't need that much. That's actually probably even more than I needed. And just going to take some, let's see, probably should use some clean water. I want it to be relatively liquidy so I get a nice splatter and it's not too chunky. There we go. And I'm just gonna let me mask off the door again because I really want the splatter to represent the stars that are outside and around the door. So I'll just start tapping. I make a mess when I splatter. I think when I tap this way, I get paint that goes up.
Seeka, I'm not sure if you saw, but there's a question about, is the lacquer fully dry already? And I think when you do the puffing with the puff and the lacquer, even though it's puffed up and heated with the heat tool, it's good to just not mush it for a little while. Do you agree? Because
yes,
it really needs to have some more time to thoroughly dry. So.
Yeah. Yes, I do agree with that. So this Post-it tape, I just smushed it alongside on the door where there's no lacquer, but it's not pushed down onto those clouds at all. So that is it for the splatter. And now we have, it's kind of starting to come together, the starry sky outside of the door. And then the last thing is really just to die cut this little guy. So let me get the die out.
I love, Seeka, on your panel so far. I mean, it's just blue and white basically, but you've added so many different, mediums and textures that it's so cool. It's so pretty. So love it.
Yeah. And this, oops, I just smushed into the paint. I really like that lapis. The lapis and the combination of lapis and the indigo ink is just, I think it's so pretty. So let me die cut this off to the side. So I just did a little bit of a smush test. It's, I mean, it's pretty firm. I could smush it down if I really pinched it, but it's not, it's by no means delicate.
Good.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me get this guy out. And I am just going to add some foam tape to the back of the moon. I will try not to be as fussy with foam tape as I normally am, because nobody needs to watch anybody apply teeny bits of foam tape to every surface of this. But yeah, just make sure that it's supported, I think, in the main body. Gosh, I've got black ink all over my fingers. I don't know about you guys, but this time of year, always kind of February into March, all my nails break. And I think it's just because it's colder and drier, but.
Yep, I have the same problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's much warmer than where I am than relative to where other folks are. Goodness. And then also when I break a nail, it's like the whole finger becomes useless. I've actually never had this much trouble getting the release paper off.
Well, it's always harder when you're live as well.
Right. Yeah. I feel like my hands are shaking a little bit. And I've got a kitty who's pawing at my leg.
I think I just heard him.
Yeah.
Sweet kitty.
Yeah. She agrees. Okay. So this guy, I'm just going to put off to the side a little bit. And there we go. And then I will use just a white gel pen, or if you have a white paint pen. I don't know why I shook that like it was a paint pen. It's just a gel pen. Mm-hmm. And I will use that to just clean up a little bit if I can get it going. Just to clean up a little bit. It's not really, I think maybe a paint pen would be better, but that works. And then just to kind of fill in some of these empty spaces. And I'm pushing pretty hard, so these clouds are really firming up nicely.
Good.
Pushing pretty hard just to get into those nooks and crannies, fill in those gaps, and
love it.
Really make it look like a solid cloud.
Diane says that you broke a rule on this card. If anybody doesn't know what she's talking about, it's because I love purple and there's no purple. But honestly, I don't have a purple rule. And also that beautiful blue is close enough to purple to me. It's beautiful. I love it. It's so dreamy.
I did. You're right. I should have thought about that.
It is not required.
But I'm wearing a purplish shirt, so.
Well, there you go. And I'll use a little purple marker on my card to make up for it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go.
So pretty. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm sure it's even more beautiful in person with all that texture.
Yeah. And I won't adhere it right this second because I think I'd like to just trim this a little bit just to match the border. So before I glue my card fronts onto a card base, I usually just line them up, make sure it's the right size, and then trim the card base a little bit if I need to. So my card base, I didn't do a good job when I was making my card bases. It's a little bit long, but it would be, I like to do top folding cards. So
yeah, that's a good thing to do. Nobody knows, nobody measures your final card to make sure it's not exactly A2. So doing a little trimming is a great way to make it all work together. So Diane says she's a blue girl and loves this card. Everybody loves your card. It's beautiful.
Oh, good.
And to everyone who is joining late, hello. It's not late. It's just, whatever, it's fine. But this will be available on replay. So if you wanted to watch Seeka's beautiful card from start to finish, it will be both on Facebook and YouTube, available on replay after we're done. So let me go ahead and take this off. So I'm going to put us all on screen again. So is anybody making along with us today? I'm curious. We'll see. Well, I'm going to do a card next, but I'll let you, I'm going to just chat for a second here in case you are making along and want to wrap up any last minute or, you know, the last bit of your card. But yeah, that was beautiful. I loved it, Seeka. See, love the card, love the card. All right, so I'm going to make a card too, and mine is going to be a little more simple than Seeka's. I'm just going to do some coloring and some masking. And so for my card, what you're going to need are some Copic markers in various shades of purple and blue. I'm not even sure which of these I'm going to use. You're also going to want a yellow to do a moon and stars. I'm going to use a white gel pen to add some things to it. I'm going to use some masking. I like to use my Post-it notes for masking, but if you have some professional masking paper, that works even better. All right. Let's see. Oh, Diane, I'm sorry. You had some sympathy cards to do. And daylight savings, I know that messed me up today too. I'm not actually feeling very well this weekend, so bear with me if I mess everything up when I'm making my card, but I'm going to do what I can. And I'm actually going to be making a card that Michelle Short designed. So on our team, you may have seen it in our blog hop and on her blog. So I'll go ahead and go to my overhead so you can get your face off the camera, Seeka.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. So I have all the things here that I'm going to be using. I'm going to move them off to the side a little bit. I do see a couple of you are making along. That's great. Even if you're not making these cards, if you're just crafting your own whatever you need to get done while we're doing this, that's fabulous as well. So I have a card panel that I cut down to 3 1/4 by 5. And so that's going to, you know, eventually on my final card, I'm going to layer it on a card base so it has a little white on white border. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a scene with the beautiful mirror in the kit that has the butterflies. And so I'm going to begin by stamping that, and then I'm going to do a little mask to stamp, stamp the water coming down from it. So I'll show you as I go. But I'm going to start with this mirror. I'm going to try to put it in the center of my card. Well, not center, but the top center. All right. And hello, everybody. Again, if you joined after we started, you can always watch it later on replay. We'll have it available. I also mentioned at the top that I'm going to go in after this is done and add videos to the description that our team did. I'm just going to link them so that if you want to see more inspiration with this kit, you can watch some other videos that our team did, which are fantastic. So look for that. So I want you to, the idea here is that I want you to get that kit out, your February My Monthly Hero kit, and make some of these cards. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can start by copying or, copying. I'll just say it, copying some cards that our team made because, that gets your inspiration going and your motor revving and gets you using your kit. And then once you start doing it that way, I'm sure some other ideas will come to you and you'll have more ideas of what to do with the kit. So nothing wrong with taking the inspiration. That's why we put it out there. All right, and here is my ring that is a butterfly to match the butterflies here. I didn't even plan that, but I just noticed. And Jane, thank you for the well wishes. All right, I missed the very top of that. My magnet might have been a little bit in the way, so I'll go ahead and restamp that. Beauty of using it in a stamping platform like the Misty. Let's hope my stuff all lines up here. It's that little top corner. All right, and now before, oops, looks like I got a little something on there, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I'll just clean that later. So before I take this off, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the Post-it right over top of this and stamp it again. I don't even re-ink it when I'm doing a mask like this because I don't need it to be super, super dark. I just wanna have an impression on there that I can use to cut along. So I'm doing it on my Post-it note. And what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be taking the water image. So you know where we're going a little bit. This is the water image with the moon and stars, and it's going to be coming down from the mirror. So I don't need to fussy cut this entire mask. All I'm really going to do is trim around this bottom portion because there are some little lines that would come up and overlap. So I don't want those to overlap with my mirror. So I'm going to go ahead and take this Post-it note, and I am also going to take my little thing off. I'm going to go ahead and clean it real quick and take it off. My mirror, I call it the thing. I love this image. I think it's so pretty. Actually, you know what? I just cleaned that, but I just realized I'm going to do one more thing while it's still here. I'm going to take another piece of cardstock, And I'm going to stamp it one more time because at the very end, I'm going to color some of those butterflies and actually try to fussy cut them and pop them up on the card as well, which will be a challenge because they're tiny and my fingers are big, but we'll give it a try and see how it goes. Let's see, I'm seeing people stop giving ideas. That's a good point, Jane. But yeah, we're here to help you guys out with some ideas. So, and we will be doing this again next month as well. April is very, very full. And so we're going to actually do our make along next month on, I think it's the 17th, which is also Easter Sunday, which I know is not going to work for some of you guys, but it did work for me and Seeka. So we're going to do our make along for the March kit on April 17th. And we'll announce that again as we get closer. I just wanted you guys to have that on your radar. If you are available to sneak away from family, if you celebrate Easter and join us, that'd be great. But if you are busy, again, it will be available for replay. I know it's not the perfect day for some of you to join us, but it was literally one of the only days in April that that we could make it work. So, all right. So again, I'm using my mask. I'm just fussy cutting. I don't have to do this perfectly because it's just to mask off so that those lines don't show up where I don't want them. And I'm going to just do the bottom portion of this. I know some of you are adverse to fussy cutting, but this should just be quick and easy. And when I'm fussy cutting, I normally just leave my scissors in one place for the most part and move the paper that I'm fussy cutting. That makes it a little bit easier to get around all the things. Using a nice sharp pair of scissors also helps. And ones that aren't too gigantic, especially because this has teeny tiny little details that I'm going around. But it's not perfect, but it'll serve its purpose. The other challenge is my eyesight, trying to see this. All right, so again, I don't need to get the top portion because I'm not going to be masking anything at the top. I'm just doing the bottom, but I am going to finish cutting around these little, what do you ever want to call it, the little parts of the mirror, the little scroll here. All right, get those little bits out of the way. And one thing when I'm doing stuff like this, I need to make sure I don't have black on my fingers because I will inevitably put it onto transfer it to my white cardstock. And that's something I don't want to do. All right, so my little mask that I just made, I'm just going to put it here over that. And since I did post it, I have a little bit of sticky up there that holds it in place. And again, you could use masking magic or any of the masking materials, but I always just use Post-its. It's easy. Yeah, I know Vanessa's mentioning how she's not a fan of fussy cutting and she's thankful for frame cuts. And in most cases, I would use the frame cuts as well. But when you're making a mask like this, I don't want to have the white border edge because I want the, the water. My brain is not working today. The water to go right up to the edge. So in this case, I'm using the Post-it to make a mask, and I wouldn't want to use the matching die for that because it would just leave that little white edge that we don't want. All right, so now I'm going to get out my white ink again. Not white ink, black ink. Goodness gracious. And stamp this going right up to my mirror. So hopefully when I take my mask off, it looks like it's water coming right out of that mirror. Go ahead and use my sleeve. I have a tool for that, but I don't feel like getting it out. That looks pretty good, so I will leave that. And then you take the mask away and you can see how that worked. If I hadn't put the mask, those little lines and circles would have went over my mirror, and that's what I was trying to avoid. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, the way Michelle did her card, again, this was designed by Michelle Short, I'm borrowing her idea, is I'm going to go ahead and take this message, live your dreams, which is part of the kit, and I'm going to put that right along the side. And I'm just going to go ahead and get that stamped first and out of the way. I mean, first before I color. Live your dreams. Okay. And again, this whole kit and this whole release, honestly, were inspired by dreams and, oops, I didn't clean that stamp. I sure hope I didn't just After all my masking work that I did. I just put that right on there. I should have taken this off first, guys. I wasn't thinking, so I hope you didn't do what I did, but I don't think it caused any damage. Thankfully, it was it would have been the second stamping of it, so it was fine. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. It looks like I had a little piece of fuzz or something on there, and I got little lines from it. But that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. You can see right there the little dots and stuff. So hopefully nothing like that happens to you. I'm going to put this back on and clean it while I'm at it. I'm trying to be better about cleaning up as I go, which is not one of my strengths. Especially I do these live sometimes, and I teach for retailers as well. And I will not clean up anything. And then I'll get done with the live event and I'll be done. So I'll go upstairs and I come back and this huge mess is there, but then I have to move on to something else. So I'll just kind of push it aside. And next thing you know, my stamp room is a complete disaster and I can't even reach my desk to create if I wanted to. So I'm trying to change my ways. Are you guys nice and neat crafters who clean up after yourselves? Or are you kind of, do you have the messy gene like I have? Dawn sees nothing. Yeah, it was all a dream. Anyway, so all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these Copic markers and I'm going to color this to look like there's water, in the mirror and coming down. So it's going to be blue in this area behind the butterflies and then coming down. And so to do this, here, I'll use this. That's going to be our butterflies later. You really want to get your flicking action going. So if you're using Copics on this, you could also watercolor it or do other things that you want to do. Pencils, but if you're using your Copics, you really want to be doing the flicking motion like this. And you probably want to do smaller little flicks or vary the sizes of them. And I'm going to do this with multiple colors. I want to keep kind of lighter colors down here at the bottom, darker up at the edge of the mirror, darker in the mirror. And I'm just going to keep using all these different colors of blues and purples until I fill it all in. So here are some of the blues and purples I have here in my bin. It doesn't have to be these exact markers. If you can even see those numbers, I'm not sure. But here are the ones that I'm using. But any blues and purples that you want to use to do this kind of thing is fine. It doesn't have to be the exact same colors. No, it's not a New Year's resolution. It's a starting this weekend resolution. I'm trying to get my act together. I don't know. So, hello, Michelle Lupton. Nice to see you here. Missed the first hour. I know we do these marathon 2-hour lives, right? But if you are just joining, you can, like I've said, go back and watch it on replay later if you so desire. Seeka made a very beautiful card before I started. So if you missed that, you definitely want to check it out. So this is going to be a little bit of a process. I'm going to be going, back and forth with the different colors and filling this all in. I might go a little closer, add a little bit more color to the edges. And then just flick, flick, flick. And I'm going to go back and forth with the colors. Go in with some purple. You might want to do some of the lighter colors first, because once you have the darker down, there's no adding lighter, right? It's not going to show up very well. Try not to flick on top of your stars and moon. So you really want to add different shades of color just to give it a really watery feel. So when it all comes together, you'll see that it looks more like water because it has all these variations of color in them, if that makes any sense at all.
I love how
if you want to go back. Sorry, Seeka.
I was just going to say, I really like how the sentiment is stamped in that orientation, because I never think to do that. And I think for any, this is super whimsical, surrealist. Why didn't I think of that?
Yep. Think outside the box of the normal way you might stamp things. This is Michelle. This is Michelle's idea to do that. So yeah, I love it. Michelle Short. We have Michelle from our global team here now in the comments. And she also runs our Stay Crafty challenge, Stay Crafty with a blog named Hero, which just, we started a new challenge just this past week. If you guys love doing challenges and want to join us, that's a fun thing to do as well to get your crafty motor running. And Essie, I don't know if Essie's still here. I think I saw her in the comments when you were teaching and I didn't want to interrupt, but hello, Essie, if you are still here. She's also on our Stay Crafty team. And actually, I need to show you guys something that Essie sent to me that I got in the mail. I'll come back to my water. I need to show you guys something. It's amazing. So Essie shared this after she got her February products. And she took the Dream accessories and made this incredible card. I mean, just look at that.
Wow.
And I asked her if she would mind if I borrowed this because we're going to a trade show for retailers next month and we're going to show some kind of mixed media ideas. And I just thought this was just incredible. So to show you guys that. So this is Essie, Esther Schwartz. She did a fabulous job with this. Okay, back to my coloring. I don't know if she's even in the comments anymore. She may not have seen me show what she made, but isn't it stunning, you guys? It's so pretty. Oh, wow. Deb is watching from Australia, just like Michelle. I love to see when people are joining from all over the globe. It makes it, I don't know, it's just really cool to think that we're all part of this global crafting community together. And speaking of that, if you guys are just joining and you weren't here at the beginning, I'll mention again that yesterday our team did a blog hop and we launched on the Hero Arts website a Support Ukraine category where we have set aside some of our products just to fill in. Right here, I'm just kind of filling in this whole area with a lighter blue just to kind of make it even coverage, and then I'll go back in and add more flicks to this area as well. But in the Support Ukraine category, there's the Sunflower Field Heroscape. There's a beautiful woodblock stamp of sunflowers and wheat. I believe the wheat sold out already, but it's a woodblock, so those are made right at Hero. So I'm sure tomorrow when they're back in the office, they'll make more of those and put them up. What else is in there? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, a blue and a yellow ink pad to match the Ukrainian flag. But we also came out with a printable, which is a digital download stamp set that has sunflower image, 2 sunflowers together, and some messages. And so when you purchase that, it's only $3.99. You get it immediately in your email, and you can print that off and color it. And then all the proceeds from that, 100%, will go to the Ukrainian Red Cross. And on the products that we actually ship to you, we do have, some costs associated. So on those, it's 100% of the net revenue, net profit. Revenue on the digi and profit on the other stamps. So anyway, our way to help support Ukraine. Let's see. I'm watching the comments again real quick because I was not looking at all while I was coloring. I'm going to add some of this more of a turquoisey blue in here with some flicks. And again, you just want to keep adding until it all comes together. Mine is average. If you look back at Michelle's, hers was just really watery and dreamy. So check out her blog to see what she did originally with this, because hers is gorgeous. I think she left her different colors farther apart. I'm kind of bunching mine up together. Sorry, I'm going quiet here. It's hard to color and talk at the same time. I do find when I accidentally go sideways, then it makes it look less like water. So you want to make sure you don't do that. Oops. Melissa, you went to Ontario? Aren't you in Texas? Okay. Almost done with the coloring, and then we'll go on to the next part of coloring. So this card is a lot of coloring, but I think the masking of it is fun to bring those images together. With this whole kit, there's a lot of ideas, you know, for masking things and creating little combined images to make dreamy scenes.
Cynthia, the Ukraine download is on the Hero Arts site. If you just go to Hero Arts and search for Giving Sunflower, or I think even if you search for Support Ukraine, it should
If you go to
show
the
up there.
shop, sorry, right in the sidebar of the shop, if you go in the main part of the shopping area, there's a Support Ukraine right on the sidebar where you can find all the products I mentioned, and then also the downloadable sunflower.
And I did, I put links in the YouTube chat, but I'm not seeing it come up, so, but I don't know why. Let's see if I can put it in the Facebook chat as well.
Okay, so see how this is coming together with the different. Ooh, it looks really dark on the monitor on my side, but it's lighter in person. But you can kind of see how it's coming together with all those different colors and looking like water. Thank you, Michelle. She just put it in the chat for the Ukraine support on Facebook. So thank you for doing that. Okay, I'm gonna move on from this coloring, and I'm gonna color the moon a light yellow. I'm using a Y00, as well as the little stars. So a little yellow to the stars and dots here. And then on the moon. And one thing I noticed that Michelle did that I really loved is she took purple. See if I can do this without messing it up. It's kind of a shadow on her yellow moon. Okay, this marker, wow. You ever had that happen, Seeka? This tip is completely dried out. I think I'm gonna have to get a new nib as well as refilling. Sorry, B0000. I guess I never use you enough. Let's see. I want a light one. I'll do BB00. A little V12, and then I'll blend it back with the yellow. Love it. All right, and then on the mirror itself, I'm going to go ahead and use purples on that. So I think I'm going to use BB11 and BB13. Yeah, I have so many markers here. So I'm going to go ahead and color it all with the lighter purple, and then I'm going to go back and add some kind of accents with the darker one. So what are we doing today? I saw we are making cards with the February My Monthly Hero Kit. And if you joined after we were starting, you can always go back once this video is done and watch on replay, either on YouTube or the Hero Arts Facebook page. And I am just quietly coloring here because I forget to talk while I'm focused on my coloring.
It's hard to do both at the same time.
It really is. And then I'll just go back after I get some base color down and add a little bit of shadows with my darker purple. And then I'll color my butterflies. And then I'm going to color a couple of the butterflies as well on the separate piece of paper that I stamped them on, and then fussy cut those. And when I attach the butterflies, I'm going to just do it with glue in the center of the butterflies and not the full butterfly, so that the wings look like they're flapping out a little bit. So that will be fun. Okay. And then so many blues. Coloring is very meditative. I agree with you on that, Vanessa. I've been looking down a lot. So if you guys mentioned something, well, hopefully Seeka would alert me if there was something I needed to answer, but I think we're doing good. I was forgetting to look at the comments. So I'm just going to add various purples and blues to these butterflies as well. I think I just saw a little space where I should have been adding water that I missed right in this little part of this butterfly. So I'll add that in. Like once you start making these little watery lines, it's hard to stop. I probably covered up a lot of my work. Okay. Just doing little different combinations of purple and blue on the butterflies. Doesn't really matter what order or how you do it, just adding color. I guess maybe you probably want colors that you didn't use as much on the background so they don't completely blend in. I'm going to take my turquoisey blue and add it to this butterfly. That's another marker with a very dry tip. I've had these Copics since a lot of them, not all of them. I didn't get all of them at once, obviously. It takes a while to build up your Copics, but I started buying them in 2008. And so some of them have been through a lot, and I have only refilled here and there. Like I haven't done a ton of refills. So sometimes I find a marker that's like, ooh, super, super dry. Because that is a long time to have them. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, I think if I were to do this again, I would leave that a little more light. I kind of got heavy-handed and added more marker than I should have. Can you use the flick technique with the Copic originals that don't have the brush end? It's a lot harder, I think, Deb. I always have used the sketch, so I don't really know. But do they have the little nib? Is that what the ones you're talking about? I think you could still do a little flick. It's not going to flick quite the same because it's not a brush. But, if I had that little tip, I would just kind of, just do whatever kind of lines you can. That's what the chisel on this one. I would still try to draw lines like that to do this, but it just depends on what kind of marker you have. And you could do the same kind of thing with a pencil, just use different colors and blend them together. The idea is just to add different kind of a depth of color into your coloring so that you don't just have one blue. So that's what I was trying to achieve with that, is just adding lots of different color. So what I'm going to do for the butterflies is I'm going to color and cut out this one, and this one. So I colored those on the base just because when you layer it, it's nice to have something behind it in case it shows up, in case you can see a little bit of the butterfly underneath. You don't want to have it have nothing on it. But I'm going to make these just light purple, I think. Maybe light purple, and I'll go in with a little darker purple in the center. Because I know Diane was worried earlier that this card didn't have purple, so I'm just trying to make sure it's okay. And then a little darker here. Okay, so this is the tricky part, trying to fussy cut these teeny tiny butterflies. I'm gonna cut it out a little and then go around it. So this takes some eyesight that I don't have and some small fingers I don't have, so we'll see how it goes. And there's details, like this one has the little tiny line coming down from it. And I'm obviously not gonna try to cut around that. I'm just doing the bigger part of the butterfly. Those little details will just show on the one that I'm putting it on top of, so I don't have to worry about cutting around the teeny tiny line details of this, if that makes sense.
Michelle, yes, US had, most of the US had daylight savings this weekend.
Yes.
And boy, that hour. I feel like the older I get, the longer that hour feels.
Yep.
Like I lost 3 hours instead of just 1.
Yep. And my teenager is doing driver's training, which is just, it's just scary to me. But anyway, I'm happy for him as well. But he had driver's training today at noon. And so when he got up and it felt like 11 to him, you know, and it was already noon, he was not happy about that. So see how I'm doing this? So what I'm doing is I'm folding that little teeny tiny butterfly that I cut out. And then I'm going to put a little glue on the middle, just the middle part of it. Thank you, Diane, for looking out for me. I do appreciate it because I am happier when there's purple involved. I will admit it. I know some of you are like, ugh, stop with the purple. But you guys are crazy. So I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. So isn't that fun? See my little popped up butterfly? And this is a really strong glue. So once it dries, he will be on there really well. Now, of course, if you were to mail this card, it might get a little mooshed in the shipping of the card, but maybe your person who receives it would see that the butterfly is supposed to have its wings flapping and would push it back up again. Or maybe you can just give this to somebody when you see them in person. Or maybe you're like me and you just create cards for fun and you are very bad about actually mailing them. And if you do that, then you can have all kinds of things on your cards that you don't have to worry about. Thank you, Don. I love my butterfly ring. This was just like, do you guys know what Plato's Closet is? It's a secondhand store, like a consignment store, but the young kids really like it. My daughter loves to go there. And it was just like a little ring thing that they had on the counter. So this was like a $3 cheapo, you know, silly ring, but I think it's so fun. It has, you know, like fake little plastic diamonds and fake little pearls, and it's just such a pretty butterfly. so I picked it up there. All right. My other little butterfly is going to go down here at the bottom. And again, I'm just putting the glue on the center part, or I could put it on the center on the card itself, but I'm just doing it on my actual butterfly here. Sticking that down in the center. Oops. This would be good for using the Hero Arts tweezers that are coming very soon. If you guys haven't signed up yet to be notified for our tools, if you're interested in the Hero tools, they are hopefully going to be in very soon, maybe in the coming week. And so, yeah, watch for that, because I think the first batch may go rather quickly because there's a lot of excitement about the tools, especially the compact cutter, which is our new little die cutting machine that's coming.
I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I know our team can't wait to get theirs. This fussy cutting of these butterflies, honestly, guys, is not that bad. I was making a big deal, but it's not. They're little, but it's really easy to go around just the shape of this butterfly. And again, I'm not worrying about the antenna. I'm just cutting those off because they're on the base card. Right. Again, I'm going to fold those. And again, this was Michelle Short's card. I'm not the original maker of it. She made this for our release, and I loved it. She did beautiful coloring. So if you want to see how she did her water, hers is really, really pretty. So I recommend you check out her blog, The Card Grotto. All right. And then the last thing that I want to do on this If I were a smart person, I would have put this on my card base first because I don't want to mush my little butterflies when I put the foam tape and everything on there. So I'll have to be careful of that when I put on the card base. But the other thing that Michelle did, let me get all these Copics out of my way, is she took a white gel pen. So just like Seeka on her card, I'm going to use a white gel pen as well. And I also like to get it going. I know that Seeka did the same thing. Something about the heat of your finger or something, it helps the white gel pen get going. So I'm going to just add some little stars or crosses, really, just little plus signs, whatever you want to call them, to kind of make it look like sparkle. But this is just with a white gel pen. So I'm just adding little dots and crosses. And my gel pen's going well. Just to give it another little something, little dots here and there. And that also covers up some of your lines to make them look like they're flowing together even better. Okay, I'll do some down here. One tip for doing this with the white gel pen, sometimes if you get frustrated with how it's working, the best thing is just to go slow. The slower you're trying to write with a gel pen, the better it'll work. If you try to hurry, it's going to leave kind of little skips or however you want to, whatever you want to call them. So I find the slower you go with it, the better it works. I am kind of looking at how she did it for placement because I love how hers looks. So if you didn't make along with us today and you have the Hero Arts February, my monthly hero kit, I do hope you'll get it out and either try what we did or try some of the other ideas from our team and just use that kit and play with it and have fun with it. And I know that some of you were challenged with this one in particular. It's a fun theme, but it's a little different than on some of the other kits. And so coming up with ideas was a little bit of a challenge for it if you're not used to building little dreamy scenes like this. And so I recommend that you just start by looking at ideas that you find from our team, from this live today, and just digging in and trying it. I mean, it's just paper, right? This is just paper and ink that I use today and markers. So if you don't like how it turns out, you had nothing to lose. You just played and had fun with it. So this is how my card looks. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm going to put this on a card base. I'm going to pop up this whole layer. I'll go ahead and finish it. And then we can end this live at only an hour and a half almost, instead of 2 hours like our one last month. And again, we will do this again on April 17th with the March kit, which is the paint splatters and museum themed kit, which is so much fun. If you guys haven't seen all the things I've been sharing, I kind of went crazy with the frame that's in that kit for March because you can frame so many things with it. It doesn't just have to be the splatters that come in the kit, which are super fun also, but I've been framing all kinds of stuff. Well, I'm sorry yours was a disaster last time, Melissa, but I'm glad you tried it. But hopefully you learned something from it when you had a disaster. You know, a disaster is an opportunity to learn and not do that thing again that you did and it didn't work out so well, right? I have plenty of things that end up in the trash can rather than proudly displayed on Instagram. And I'm sure everyone else does as well, especially all those fancy card makers that we all love to watch, like Seeka. I bet every single thing she creates isn't perfect, right?
Oh no. Yeah, there's lots in the trash.
So there is the final card. I think it's really fun. And I will go ahead and go back to all of us here on screen, all of us, both of us. And I hope you guys had here. I'm going to switch you so that we're. Oh, look at how beautiful your desk is all laid out. So what do we have going on there?
Trying to clean as I go. You guys were inspiring me to tidy as I go.
All right, guys. So thank you for watching today. I hope you had fun. I hope if you joined us late or you're watching on replay, you'll go ahead and try these cards that we made. We had fun doing them with you today. And again, I'm just going to say it again because there's no sense not saying it over and over. We have our new printable, downloadable PDF that 100% of the revenue from it supports the Ukrainian Red Cross. And we're going to pick other things in the future. We're just going to keep supporting because there's going to be a long time that Ukraine needs support. And this is what I made with my sunflowers. So you just print them out and make things with them, or just buy it for $3.99, make a donation. Think of it as a little $3.99 donation, and it's on the Hero Arts website. And then we also have all the other products that are in that category to support Ukraine. And the February kit that we use today is still available on heroarts.com. So if you loved it and you didn't have it yet with all its fun, surrealist and dreamlike images, you can pick it up. The March kit is also still available. I think there's a few left of that one, and get that now, because then when you'll have it in your hands by April 17th, and then you could make along with us and you'd be ready to go. And then we have another kit coming soon as well on the first Monday in April. So just keep tuning in, and thank you guys for joining us today, and we will see you again soon. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.